Two words, if only. Two words that always find their way at the beginning of a sentence that tends to lead to discouragement or just kind of like failing, if you think about it. If only, I've said this so many times to myself. I whispered this to myself in so many places, and I think it's fair to say that you guys have probably thought the same thing. If you're having trouble thinking of a time that you said, if only, I have a few examples. Now, when we were kids, right, and we wanted to go to McDonald's, driving by, look to your right, you see McDonald's, you would say, oh my gosh, Mom, Dad, can we go to McDonald's? And instead of saying no, they would say something even more cruel. They would say, do you got McDonald's money? And you would sit in the back and you'd go, if only I had McDonald's money. There's another one. Who's football fans in here? There we go. NFL, a little bit. Now, if you love football, you probably think that this year is your year, right? There's a team here in Texas that likes to say that every year as well. And if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you're probably thinking the same thing. If only the Dallas Cowboys were actually good. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'm sorry. That's between you and the Lord. We should talk about that. Here's another one. I talked to my wife about this one. I kind of realized that maybe the culture, wherever we were at, kind of doesn't connect on this one. But when you're at your family's house, my mom was the grandma, she was the G-mom, everybody went to my mom's house. So when we went over there, a lot of times we'd have parties, get-togethers, and you have to take a deep breath, and you're like, I'm gonna go to my room and just, kind of get back on the same subject. You walk in your room, and then there's a random little baby on your bed. And you go, if only they would have chose another room to be the nap room. Anybody else deal with that? Okay, yeah, you walk in the room, there's just a random baby. I don't know who it is. Sometimes it's not even your family, it's just a random person down the street. See, those if only statements seem to find us, right? We laugh at the ones that are lighthearted and funny, but some of them eat at us. Some of them hit us a little harder. If only I wasn't a failure, right? If only I didn't have to wait. If only I was good enough for that job, was good enough for that position. If only I was good enough for that person or that family. If only I could truly be me. If only my family or this person knew the Lord. If only they loved me. See, today we're going to walk through the life of Moses. We're going to be in the book of Exodus, and we're going to see how God takes those if only moments and turns them into something beautiful. The story we walk through today is incredibly eye-opening for me in my last year of college. See, I was an engineering student, high hopes, no job offers, and also there was this girl. I was working hard to honor the love, the work, the power, and the joy that so many people around me poured into me, my family, my friends, my coaches, my professors. And as I looked around me and I watched around me, it felt like I was falling behind. I was doing all the right things, all the boring things, all the methodical things, all the things I should do, but yet I was stuck at a job that paid me a large wage of $10 an hour. I was pouring into others at Bible study, working at a college job, pouring into others at Bible study, staying up late at night to finish my college work, just so I can start the day off right. And yet, again, day after day, I began to feel stuck. At times, I felt lonely, like life felt heavy. It was discouraging. I had no clear job lined up, no clear opportunity, no real sense of direction. And every day I watched everyone else posting their graduation photos, posting their job announcements, posting this, that, or the other, and I was super disheartened. I felt like everybody else was moving on with their lives, and most importantly, their plans, and I was just stuck. See, my life and my plans were not what I wanted them to be, and I was afraid that I missed my chance. I started to believe that if God really cared for me, if God was really calling me, he wouldn't have opened a door back to my living room. He would have opened a door to that place that I wanted to be in. I felt invisible, sometimes even worthless. The waiting made me question everything. You ever felt that before? But ever felt like the waiting is just way too long? See, those ordinary, and I would say lame days taught me so much. They weren't a punishment, and they weren't wasting my time, even though it felt like it. My faith was there, but my mind was weary. My body was tired, but doubt began to creep in, and trust in God began to flee. Impatiently waiting for this great calling to finally arrive, I was stuck. And so, fast forward to an awesome job, too awesome of a job sometimes, a lovely wife, an amazing community that I can call home. I can firmly say that my God does not fail, and that he is working right here in the now. You see, God does his deepest work in the seasons that feel the least significant. God does his deepest works in the season that feel the least significant. All right, let's open up our Bibles together. If you got a Bible, I encourage you to pull it out. If you don't, after service, we have some free ones out there. You can grab it. But if you would open up your Bibles together with me today, we're going to be in Exodus 2, and we'll be going through the verses 11 through 25. Exodus is in the front of the Bible. It goes Genesis, Exodus, second book. When you got it, say got it. Got it, got it, got it. All right. Now, some of you may or not be familiar with the story, so listen up to me. I'm excited to walk through it. You may have heard it either by reading through this passage of the story in this book in the Bible, or by watching one of the most amazing movies, Prince of Egypt. Any Prince of Egypt fans? Nonetheless, let's hop on into it. Starting in verse 11. Words will be on the board. One day, after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" The man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid. What I did must have become known. When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. A little backstory on this text. The Israelites, who we're talking about here, have been in Egypt for almost 400 years, and they've been enslaved, beaten, broken, and oppressed against. And around this time, when God raised up their deliverer, spoiler, turns out to be Moses, they were in the midst of forced labor, the midst of oppression under the rule of Pharaoh. God's people were being shut out. Also, Pharaoh decided and dedicated that every son, first son, to be killed when they had him. Moses was born. Moses was a son, and he was born during this time. Miraculously, God spared him from a 100% death at this time, truly because Moses was chosen to deliver his people. As our passage opens, Moses is now grown. Although raised in Pharaoh's palace, for the first few years of his life, he was raised by his mother, right? So I'm sure she probably taught him a little bit about his background, his culture, who he was. And so we can kind of see when we get to the part, he says, Moses sees his people. Now we see in the opening scene already that Moses is special. He has an eye for his people. We also see that Moses had the instincts of a deliverer, but he lacked the faith and the truth and the humbleness it was to be a deliverer in God's eyes. He tried on his own strength. He killed the Egyptian thinking his moment had arrived. However, we see in the last verse, verse 15, Moses ran away. When we read that Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian. What a radical change, right? The privilege of living in this palace with all these titles, all this wealth, all these people, to living in the desert. I think of like the Wild West. We got tumbleweeds flying all around. You can hear sheep belting in the back. There's nothing. You see, Moses had the right impulses, but he lacked deep-rooted faith. He lacked patience, he lacked wisdom, and he lacked humility to speak for God's kingdom. So the Lord sovereignly removed Moses from what seemed like the right position, what seemed like the right place to be, and placed him in a place that was truly meant for him, to grow him. Now, to my story, like I said, chisels, we're walking through how God's word is walked and worked through the lives of the speakers that speak here every other week. That was my last year of college. I felt the same shift. Not because I went from mom and dad taking care of me and then I had to learn what paying a bill meant, but because God used the waiting in the mundane to prepare me for what was coming. I was blessed to be a young men's leader at our church. I remember asking all the boys to pray for this job opportunity that I got back at home. It was at Dow Chemical. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before, but if you grew up in Lake Jackson, Texas, that is the place to be. My sister worked there. My brother would often have some jobs out there, and I just knew that God was calling me here. My wife did not want me to go there. Well, my girlfriend at the time was not very fond of me wanting to go to Lake Jackson, but nonetheless, I thought I had it in the bag. My reference that I had was this amazing man at our church. His name's Joe Kukla, and he was fighting for me left and right. He was going to get me into this job, and he's like, I had my interview. It went perfect. And I remember coming back to the boys, and I'm like, I got the job, guys. I'm moving to Lake Jackson. So they're praying for me, and they're like, oh, that's good, Jay. We're excited for you. I was like, man, I can already see it. We're moving there. My family's there. I led at a church there. I had some boys that was in 6th grade when I started leading them. They're in high school now. It's like I'm going to be able to go back. I told them, hey, I'm going to come back and finish this small group like we started it. God did work in miraculous ways for me to do that, but it didn't start that day. What went from a big yes went to a no. I thought I had it in the bag, but God said, not this one, my son. When I look back, it took me back to ground level. I was at square one, no job offers, and I had nothing to bring to the table when I was going to ask my girlfriend to marry me. And I had no sureness in the next stages of my life. No idea where I was supposed to go. Everything that I thought that God was calling me to do was stripped away from me. Now, family, I feel like most of us has felt exactly what it feels like to be in those early days of Midian, right? Lost, stuck, fighting for something that God has something even greater for you in the future. And truthfully, a few of you would say you're in that Midian right now. I don't want to make anybody raise your hand because that's a little awkward. But if you're in that Midian right now, there's good news for you. See, that anger, that frustration, that sadness, depression, worry, anxiety, all of those things that you're wondering if your dreams are put on hold, if what you want is actually thrown to the back. The trunk is filled with everything that you wanted to do, but the driver's seat has nothing to do with where you want to be at. Perhaps you're recovering from a failure, a lost job, a broken relationship, or feeling disqualified or sidelined. You might be a parent on the grind, doing the diapers, carpool lines, sleepless nights, screaming kids, pulling their hair out. My niece did that. Wondering if your dreams had been put on hold. Or maybe you're kind of similar to my stage of life right now. You're a recent graduate. Maybe you're waiting tables, working that dead-end job, sending out applications on applications, working and watching everyone else move on with the plans that they made for their life. And you wonder, did I miss my chance? Did I soil it? In those seasons of waiting, boredom, and hidden work, you can feel invisible, forgotten, just like Moses felt in that stage in Midian, tending to the sheep in the desert. 40 years after being in this place where God has put him in this high regard, stripped away, I bet you can feel that way. But this is exactly where God does his deepest preparation. You may ask yourself, did I make the wrong decision? Have I blown it? God can't use me now. But folks, I want you to know that God is empowering you and he is working through you. And I want to encourage you with some of the wisdom that I received. You see, God had to move the Moses from Egypt to create the Moses that would deliver his people from Egypt. Amen? Be where your feet are. Be there for a reason. Steward what he has placed in your hands right now. God is not finished with you. He's going to give you more than what you ask for. He's going to work through all the things that you're going through for your good and for his glory. You just have to trust. Let's move forward to see how God builds Moses' character. We're going to be in verse 16. Now, priests in Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." "And where is he?" Reuel asked his daughters. "Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat." Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." In the season, God provided a mentor in Reuel. Like, I remember being in the season and having a few of them are in this room right now. But he provided a mentor to Reuel named Reuel, who happened to be his father-in-law. And his name, Reuel, you probably heard of Jethro later in the story, but Reuel actually means a friend of God. Who's grateful for some friends of God in your life? We can see here that he walked with Moses for about 40 years. See, these few passages don't do too much justice, but there's 40 years of time compressed into these few verses. This time, I would say, taught Moses dependence, discipline, taught him knowledge of the desert that he would soon deliver God's people out of. 40 years of doing the same thing. 40 years of tending to the same sheep, seeing the same people, not knowing where to go, and wondering, is this all I have? After what my life turned out to be at the beginning, all that took place to get me to where I was, what felt like the mistake of my life, kicked me to the curb, kicked me to the desert, and now is this all I have? 40 years, no miracles, no special days, no nothing. Church, we have walked through these Midian seasons, times of boredom, times of waiting and security. You see, the enemy will whisper that you are forgotten, that you're stuck, that God doesn't have anything or want anything to do with you, but the truth is far better. God is preparing you. Right where you are right now, God is working and moving in you. In my story, the ordinary days built something lasting. When I look at my life and the leadership that I've been blessed to be a part of, how God has called me into different sanctions of that, I look at my life and the joy that I have, that I just can just have freely. Not because of anything I did or my family did, but because how God has worked through my family and myself. Even standing on the stage today, I would tell you that I knew God was going to do something great during those seasons, but I was impatient. You see, if you ask my wife, or my mom, or my wife's mom, or honestly anybody in this room who's known me longer than being on the stage, impatient kind of goes hand in hand with Jay Young. I'm a very impatient person at sometimes. If I want it then, but that's not what God is always calling. And this can often be some of us. This can often be all of us, right? We want something, we want to get it. But for me, as I was walking through these desert days, my impatience often led to anxiety, to anxiousness, because I wanted to do well. I didn't want to look like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't want to look like I had failed in something that my family worked so hard to put me into. And this ultimately led me to try to do it on my own. Now, I like to say I'm pretty strong. My mom doesn't think that. She just says I'm big. But I wasn't that strong, and I was trying to leave God out of it. However, it was in this season, God led me right where I needed to go, and he met me with this amazing and alive word that taught me that in the midst of everything, I had people who were friends of God fighting for me, pleading for me, and telling me the truth. They kept pouring into me, and I kept hearing, you are not in the wrong place. You're exactly where God has you. Your life's purpose is less about a perfect plan you can control, more by God's unbreakable promise. I'll repeat that because I think it was incredible for me to hear, and I hope it hits you today as well. Your life's purpose is less about a perfect plan that you can control and more by God's unbreakable promise. And what a promise that is. Some of you may be thinking, What is this promise? No, I've never heard of that. This is my first time at this church thing, and we're meeting in a school. I never heard of that before either. But let me tell you that God moves in the most amazing ways. And his promise holds so much weight. And we're going to talk about that as we move through, but let's go ahead and go to verse 23. We'll continue through the story. During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry to help because slavery, and their cries of help went up because slavery, I read that wrong. And their cries for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered the covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So God looked at the Israelites and was concerned about them. You see, we're talking about Moses, and I'm talking about kind of how it chiseled my life, and we can look at this story and see that he wasn't the only one going through it. He wasn't the only one living in obscurity. He wasn't the only one going through the what ifs, the hard, the hurt, the broken. Multiple, and all of God's people, it says here, were groaning, crying out to God. Like I said before, let me share a moment when it all clicked for me. It was one ordinary night. I was washing the dishes, nothing glamorous, scrubbing plates. Honestly, washing dishes has to be the worst chore. If you got to do that, I mean, that's pretty equivalent with slavery, I feel like, in this time. But washing dishes, and in that moment, I felt a lot like Moses and Midian. That might seem like a little overdramatic, but truthfully, if you have to wash dishes for a group of guys that you live with in college who tend to not wash their dishes, it can get a little frustrating. And I groaned to myself, just like the Israelites did, and it was so much pent-up stuff that I remember sitting there and going, God, what are you doing? How am I supposed to do this, and where are you? I got a mom who prays for me all the time. I got a family who is dedicated to pushing me in the right space. I have such an amazing story that you've been writing in my life, but everything that I thought you called me to has just been stripped away. Lord, I know you're going to save me, but I don't feel like you are. I need you, and I feel like you don't even want me. And gently, the Lord reminded me that this season is for preparation. It's not punishment. This season is to build me up, not tear me down. And I remember seeing a sermon online, and the guy said, you should start inviting God into everything that you do. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So I prayed while washing the dishes. And I asked the Lord would clean me as he cleans these dishes. I pray that he remove the dirt and the grime and just the filthiness of these dishes. Would he do that to me? Would he make me this clean plate that I can serve others? If only. If only I would have turned around and saw him. If only I would have knew that he was there. Would I have gone through this? I'd say yes. Would I have gotten through it a little bit better? I'd say yes. As we look back at that Moses story, it beautifully points us to Jesus. Just as Moses left his palace, our Savior did the same. He left his glories of heaven, took on human weakness. He suffered, but he remained obedient even to the cross. And he did not just stay there. No, he rose again, and he's coming back, and that's good news. That's real good news. I love what Hebrews 4:15 says. When we look at that, it says, for we do not have a high priest who was unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are. Yet he did not sin. You see, he truly gets us. He's perfected it. We have a God who understands what we're going through. And many of you are having spiritual battles on the daily right now. You're going through it on the daily. And I want to tell you that the truth is, wherever you are right now, whether it's hard or whether it's not, there's always something in the back of your head. It's the enemy trying to play tricks on you. You see, the devil knows you by your sin, but he calls you by your shame. But God knows you by your sin, and he calls you by your name. He says, I know you. I know who you are, and I know what is going to come to pass. Just trust me. And even in the hard and mundane and dirty, filthy stages of our life, God is working. Now let's look back at Exodus 2, 21 and 22. I don't have it up on the screen, but I just want to close and look at this. You know, it does a good snapshot of how Moses is settling into his new life. He names his son Gershom, and he says, I've become a foreigner in a foreign land. I have a feeling that Moses probably felt like everything was lost. He was lost. What God had called him to was lost. All the riches and the comfortability and everything that he had was lost. Now, as I said before, we have to rest in God's promise. See, God's promise didn't leave Moses on the wayside. God's promise is what made Moses, Moses. When we read forward just one more chapter, we're going to be in chapter 3. You got to move over there. I'll kind of summarize this chapter. We see that God meets Moses in a miraculous way. After 40 years in the desert in Midian, tending the sheep and living as a forgotten shepherd, Moses encountered God at the burning bush. Anybody seen VeggieTales? That's a good TV show. If you don't know what VeggieTales is, you got to look it up. I thought about explaining it, but not on the script. So God met Moses at this talking burning bush, and it sounds crazy. Instead of jumping at the chance to deliver God's people, Moses hesitated. He pushed back against God's calling, and he offered excuse after excuse after excuse. He gives 4 of them that I want to highlight. He goes, who am I that I should go? What if they don't believe me? I am slow of speech and of tongue. Finally, in a moment of deep reluctance and deep unworthiness, he said the words that many of us have felt in our own heart, and you might be feeling it right now. He goes, please send someone else. That is heavy. A part of it is also a little funny. I don't want to overlook it too quick. When I look at this, it hit me, and I was like, oh, freak, how often do I say, God, somebody else should do this? I feel like I'm a very first foot forward, I'll do it. But there were so many times I look at this stage where I was like timid. Like, oh, I don't know, God. Like, are you sure you want me to be an engineer? Now, I know God can move in miraculous ways, but he spent 4 years preparing me for that. He was teaching me something there. So why was I worried about where I was going to go? He knew where he was taking me. And guys, I don't want to look over too much. Please send someone else. Like I said, it's a little funny. I think to my parents telling me something like this, and I wonder how it would have panned out. If you know my mom, you probably know exactly how it would pan out. But if you don't know my mom, let me give you a little example. Justin, it's my government. That's what my family calls me. Come and do these dishes right now. And I'd say, Mom, who am I to do the dishes? Honestly, I'm not even worthy. Send someone else, Mom. Yeah, I'm not making it to see another sunrise. That's the last day. But before she sends me to the Lord, she would tell me, I taught you exactly what to do. I'm not making you do something you don't know what to do. I've prepared you for this. I'm building you to be something greater than just a boy. I'm building a man in you. And I envision that's how God felt towards Moses. This is the man that God had been preparing for decades, yet he said no multiple times. But God, in his patience and in his power, met Moses. He met him in his weakness, and he used him in a mighty way. He calms him, he empowers him, and he reminds Moses the promise that he left. And I pray that you guys understand that he's leaving that exact same promise with us today. 5 words that changed it all for me. Exodus 3:12. After all of this unworthiness and reluctantness, God tells Moses, I will be with you. That promise is life-changing. See, your life's purpose is about God's unbreakable promise, right? It's not about the plan that you've set before. It's not about the plan that you think is going to work out. Everything that I've done to set this up is about his promise. We can rest in this promise. We'll know that it doesn't matter what we do. If I take 2 left steps, 2 right steps, probably going to fall because you look goofy, but God is going to work through us. He's going to build us up to see that goodness, and I will be with you. The creator of the universe the God of eternity, promises that he will be with you. Not just in the good times, not just in the bad, not just in the boring, and not just in the in-between. So here's your invitation today, guys. I've been talking a lot up here. I hope you heard a little bit from it. But wherever you find yourself, God hasn't forgotten you. God has not forgotten you. Fix your eyes on him. Truth is, if we just stop and look around, we'll truly see that he is right there with you. Maybe God is calling you out of your own palace right now, your comfort, your success. He's calling you out of the place that you feel like is the best. And I think that he's doing that so he can shape you into a better shepherd. Maybe you're right in the middle of those long desert years. You're in Midian right now. Keep walking in obedience. Maybe you're in a run from your past mistakes. You're going to run from the mistakes of the people around you. You're going to run from something. Come home. Come to a God who redeems you. You don't have to be like anybody else. He meets you exactly where you are. I just pray that you would center your life, every part of it, even the most ordinary days, the most gruesome tasks, washing dishes, tending and changing those diapers, trying to figure out this whole family dynamic, trying to figure out what God is calling you to do in your next stages and steps of life. Stop questioning his plan and rest in his promise. Give your whole story to him. Your strengths, your weaknesses, all the if-onlys. There's pure joy in the lowliness because we know that all of the glory is in his name. Like I started off with, if only. If only we knew how intentionally God was moving in our lives in this very moment. Anybody ever thought that? I hope you're thinking now. If only we knew what he was doing right now, wouldn't we smile more? Wouldn't we laugh more? Wouldn't we love each other more? Wouldn't we remind ourselves that his promise, I will be with you, goes so far? To the cross, to death, to resurrection and life in him. When we rest knowing that his way is greater than any way we could have ever imagined. Church, like I said before, I'm not the man I am today because of my own strength. I found out very quick that I can lift as many weights as I want to, but life will crush me time and time again. I'm here today because God's word worked through me. This passage, Exodus, it chiseled me. It knocked off all the bad and all the pride, for all the selfishness. It knocked all of it off so that I can become less and he can become greater. Now, I don't want to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. I told you earlier I had no jobs, no place to go, and there was this girl. Now, I ended up getting a job. I started working for Ignite Chiropractic here. Our church used to meet there. And I met some of the most influential and amazing people in my entire life. They became my best friends, literally. They took care of me. They took care of my family. And most importantly, they fed my spiritual soul. I moved to Houston because I had a job at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise that I now work at. And I lived with some of my best friends, Caitlin and Aaron. They have a beautiful baby now. And they allowed me to stay there with no constraints. They just said, hey, Jay, come here. We'll take care of you. And like I said, there was this girl. Let me tell you how God works in amazing ways. Earlier, I told you a story how I had nothing to bring to the table when I was going to ask my amazing mother and father-in-law now for their daughter's hand in marriage. I was driving there. I remember driving from San Marcos, Texas State, eat them up. And I got there, and I'm driving, and I'm just kind of like praying because I'm like, oh, they love me. But like if I tell them I ain't got nothing for their daughter, that might change. It wouldn't have, now that I know. But I'm 10 minutes into the drive, and I get a call. I answer the phone. Justin Young? I said, yes, how you doing? Hey, we have a job opportunity for you. We have a job offer. We loved your interview. We want you to come work. I'm like, oh, let's go. I got something. Even though it's a little bit outside of the way that we wanted to go, we got something. I get an email ping as soon as I get off the call. Ding! I got another job offer. Blessed me. I walk in. They had no choice but to say yes. Now, Guys, your life may feel disappointing in sometimes, but we have an amazing God who's writing an amazing story. Let's become more of a body of believers that rest in the promise. It doesn't try to do all the planning. And know that he will be with us. He will go with us. And trust that we will see God in our lives and we would look back and go, God, you did it. Now, church, as we close, I just pray that you would understand that God is so much greater than everything. Like, you might be going through some really big things right now. You might be like, Jay, I'm going through it. Like, whatever I'm going through right now it's deep, it's hard, and I can't fight this giant. There's this supernatural beast that is fighting me tooth and nail, and I'm losing. I want you to know, whatever you're going through might be big. It might be huge, but we have a Father, Creator, person who loves us more than anything that is much, much, much bigger, much, much, much stronger.